In January 2025, this company made $1 billion a year. By December, they were at $9 billion. By April 2026, $30 billion. That's not a forecast. That's the actual number. No company in American history, not Google, not Facebook, not Amazon, has ever grown this fast. And the two people who built it? They're siblings, who quit the company everyone thought would win the AI race. The company is called Anthropic. And to understand how it was built, you need to understand what it was built against. In 2020, Dario Amodei was the vice president of research at OpenAI. He'd helped build GPT-2 and GPT-3, the models that would eventually become ChatGPT. His sister, Daniela Amodei, was the vice president of operations. Together, they were at the center of the most important AI lab on the planet, and they walked away. In early 2021, Dario and Daniela left OpenAI, and they didn't go alone. 7 co-founders, some of the best researchers in the field, all leaving at the same time. The reason? They believed OpenAI was scaling too fast, building more powerful systems without building the safety infrastructure to match. They started meeting in backyards during the pandemic, masked, socially distanced, scribbling ideas on whiteboards propped against fences. They named the company Anthropic, meaning human-centered. And here's the irony that makes this story almost unbelievable. The people who left because AI was moving too fast built the fastest-growing company in American history. But the growth almost didn't happen. In 2023, Anthropic was running out of money, losing benchmarks, and getting dismissed as the safety company that can't compete. What changed everything was a single strategic decision. While OpenAI chased consumers, ChatGPT, DALL-E, the App Store, the brand, Anthropic did something that seemed boring. They built for developers, for businesses, for enterprises. Their AI model, Claude, wasn't trying to be your friend, it was trying to be your tool. And it turned out that businesses will pay a lot more for a reliable tool than consumers will pay for a clever chatbot. Then, in May 2025, they launched Claude Code, an AI coding assistant built to work across entire code bases. Not just autocomplete, actual software engineering at the project level. Developers adopted it almost overnight. Within 9 months, Claude Code alone was generating $2.5 billion in annual revenue from a single product that most people outside the tech industry had never heard of. And then the Fortune 500 started calling. 8 of the 10 largest companies in America are now Claude customers. Over 500 companies spend more than $1 million a year on Anthropic's platform. The enterprise strategy that everyone dismissed as boring turned out to be the most lucrative business model in all of AI. The funding rounds tell the story better than words can. March 2025, $3.5 billion raised. Valuation, $61.5 billion. September 2025, $13 billion raised. Valuation, $183 billion. February 2026, $30 billion raised. The second largest venture funding deal in history. Valuation, $380 billion. And then, in April 2026, Google invested another $40 billion. Investors began offering valuations of $800 billion. That's an 1,100% increase in 13 months. But here's the number that matters more than valuation: revenue. $1 billion at the end of 2024, $4 billion by July 2025, $9 billion by December, $14 billion by February 2026, and $30 billion by April. That's 10x growth, sustained for 3 consecutive years. At this scale, no enterprise technology company in recorded history has compounded at this rate. And here's the part that makes this story unique. While racing to the top of the AI industry, Anthropic turned away one of the most lucrative clients on Earth. The United States Department of Defense wanted to use Claude. The Pentagon asked Anthropic to remove safeguards that prevented Claude from being used for autonomous weapons and mass surveillance. Dario Amodei said no. The Pentagon responded by labeling Anthropic a supply chain risk. They ordered U.S. government agencies to stop using Claude. Anthropic is now suing the Pentagon, a $380 billion AI company, in open legal battle with the American military. And the strangest part? It worked. Business Insider reported that when OpenAI agreed to work with the Pentagon after Anthropic refused, thousands of users switched from ChatGPT to Claude, specifically because of Anthropic's stance. Saying no to the Pentagon became a marketing strategy nobody planned. So, $30 billion in revenue, $380 billion valuation, the fastest growth in American corporate history. Everything is working. So, what's the catch? Remember that strategic decision from 2023? The one that changed everything? The decision was to go enterprise first. While every AI company in the world was fighting for consumers, Anthropic bet that the real money was in APIs and business workflows. Invisible AI, the kind that runs inside companies, not on your phone. It was unglamorous, it was invisible, and it was the single best strategic decision in the history of artificial intelligence. But now comes the harder bet. Anthropic is reportedly preparing for an IPO, potentially as early as October 2026. They're talking to Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley. If it happens, it could be one of the largest public offerings in technology history, and they're spending at a rate that would bankrupt a small country. Tens of billions on compute infrastructure. Training a single frontier model costs hundreds of millions of dollars. Google invested $40 billion, and most of that money flows right back to Google Cloud as payment for computing power. The capital goes in a circle. Dario Amodei himself said publicly that a 12-month delay in AI progress would make him bankrupt. He said that on a podcast. The CEO of a $380 billion company admitting that his entire business depends on the technology continuing to improve at its current pace. That's the bet. Anthropic is building one of the most valuable companies on Earth, on a runway that requires everything to keep accelerating. No slowdowns, no plateaus, just relentless, exponential growth. Forever. Not everyone is buying the Anthropic story, and the skeptics have real arguments. First, the margins. Anthropic's gross margins are reportedly around 40%. That sounds decent until you compare it to where they need to be. Microsoft operates at 77% gross margin, Google at 57%. To justify an $800 billion valuation, Anthropic needs to nearly double its margin structure, and there's no clear path to doing that while compute costs keep rising. Second, the competition. OpenAI is still the consumer brand leader with hundreds of millions of users. Chinese open-source models from DeepSeek and others are advancing fast and cost a fraction of the price. And Google, which has invested $40 billion in Anthropic, also builds its own competing AI model called Gemini. The company funding Anthropic is also trying to beat them. Third, the personality risk. Anthropic's backers have reportedly grown concerned about Dario Amodei's volatile public statements. The leaked Pentagon memo, the open attacks on Sam Altman, calling him a liar and accusing OpenAI employees of being under his spell. One shareholder told the press he clearly cannot control his emotions. For a company preparing for the public markets, an unpredictable CEO is a risk that no balance sheet can offset. $30 billion in revenue, built in 15 months, by two siblings who walked out of the company everyone thought would win. Dario and Daniela Amodei bet that safety and enterprise would beat speed and hype. That being the company developers trust would matter more than being the company consumers recognize. So far, the bet is paying off in ways nobody predicted. But Anthropic is not yet profitable. It depends on continued exponential growth. Its CEO admits that a single year of stagnation would bankrupt the company, and it's about to face the most unforgiving audience in business, the public market. Is Anthropic the next Microsoft, the company that quietly became the infrastructure layer everyone depends on? Or is this the most breathtaking growth story ever told on the way to the most breathtaking correction? Nobody knows. Not the investors, not the analysts, not even the Amodei siblings. But one thing is already settled. What they built in a backyard during a pandemic has changed the AI industry forever. The only question left is whether it changes the world or whether the world changes first.